Sleepovers are a rite of passage for any preteen, for any child for that matter. The thrill, the excitement of getting to stay up late, watching movies. This is an opportunity to create lasting friendships, to be fun, social, and curate independence from their parents. For most kids, sleepovers set the foundation for social growth and development. These memories should not be fraught with worries. However, it was not the case for Jessie. Jessie was a 12-year-old who didn't do sleepovers because she was afraid of falling asleep and wetting the bed. We spend about a third of our lives sleeping. Sleep is incredibly important for our bodies. In fact, the work of sleep is almost more important than the work we do while awake. Without sleep, we lose our ability to learn, our ability to remember, our ability to work, to move, to digest. In fact, without the work of sleep, we lose our very selves. Studies show sleep, especially healthy sleep, helps growth and development and changes how the brain is structured. When an adult is deprived of deep, healthy sleep for a short time, they bounce back. But when our children and teens miss out on this sleep, it's gone. There is growth and development and specialization that never gets to happen. Maybe your child snores, or your teenager wets her bed. Maybe you have a mouth breather in your family. Maybe someone is always tired and draggy, even after hours in bed. Or perhaps your child is showing signs of ADHD. Yet you're not convinced that stimulant drugs are the answer. I invite you to think about what else can cause ADHD symptoms in a child. Is it possible there could be unresolved sleep issues? Yes, and it can be hard to notice the signs of sleep-disordered breathing in kids because every kid is different. When we are used to a set of behaviors, we can just start thinking of them as our kids' personalities. And since kids don't always react like adults to being very tired, it can be hard to pin down the problem. The signs and symptoms of a child that has ADHD are the exact same as that of a sleep-deprived child. And sleep-disordered breathing can aggravate underlying issues. So we might blame behavior on the diagnosis and not the sleep breathing. Let's think about this together for a second. What can sleep-disordered breathing look like in a kid? This is a child who is too tired to learn, to play, or to even make friends. Every day that they are too exhausted to function is a day full of missed opportunities. And because they are growing and are at an age when kids are supposed to be learning at a rapid rate, they are now falling further and further behind. This could be a child with an open mouth posture who hasn't developed good nasal breathing skills. This is often due to tongue tie and high palate, untreated allergies, or chronic sinus infections. Mouth breathing irritates the throat, tonsils, and adenoids, and can cause sleep-disordered breathing. Then, the sleep-disordered breathing means that the child isn't getting good sleep. So the allergies and sinus infections are even worse. Parents and teachers often associate a slack-jawed posture with laziness or a lack of intelligence. But in reality, it is a huge red flag that a child isn't sleeping well. Finally, the bedwetting. Children have smaller bladders, and sleep-disordered breathing causes microarousals. They wake up enough to catch their breath and feel the urge to urinate, but they're not all the way awake, so they don't wake up enough to get out of bed and use the restroom. Paradoxically, kids with a lot of microarousals look like really deep sleepers. Nothing wakes these kids up. Having to use the bathroom, alarm clocks, smoke alarms, they can even vomit in their sleep and never seem to stir. It's not because they're good sleepers. It's because they're terrible sleepers. Microarousals take their toll. They never really do the work of sleep, and so their bodies don't want to wake up because they've been almost waking up every few moments all night long. Sleep-disordered breathing takes a horrible toll on these kids because they can't control their behavior. They don't know they're wetting the bed. They're genuinely exhausted and often in pain. Every day is a struggle, but often adults assume that it's a discipline issue and not a health issue. So now you have kids internalizing the message that they're stupid, lazy, and babyish, when really, they're just not sleeping. Not all kids give in to the exhaustion and just fall asleep. Some kids try to fight that tired feeling, and the way they do it is by staying in a constant state of overstimulation. For some kids, constant motion and talking is how they stay awake. If they let their brain and body quiet, they might nod off, but they don't want to miss anything at home or at school. So instead, they become a tornado of activity, wearing out all the adults around them and irritating all the other kids. Since sleep loss also affects their ability to control their emotions and read social cues, these kids often can't make friends. They alienate other kids, feel lonely and unconnected. So what are some clues that this sensory-seeking behavior is sleep-related rather than plain old ADHD or sensory issues? For one, the bedtime meltdowns. This is a really tired kid, but they're also fighting sleep. For some reason, they have negative associations with sleep, and that's common for kids with sleep-disordered breathing. Their brain associates sleep with almost suffocating over and over all night long. And so there's fear attached to sleeping. Secondly, the night terrors. These can be linked to developmental or neurological issues, but they can also be caused by sleep-disordered breathing, as the repeated drops in oxygen levels trigger panic attacks. The sleep talking and tossing and turning and sweating also point to some sort of sleep issue. This isn't normal sleep breathing. When a child isn't getting good sleep, they tend to get sick more. And the mouth breathing in response to illness can start a downward spiral. So this kid gets yet another cold and spends the night alternating between snoring and mouth breathing. The nose is essential to good breathing. It warms the air, humidifies it, and screens out particles that can damage your lungs. So when they are mouth breathing, they are sending cold, dry air full of irritants right down the windpipe and into the lungs. What do you think happens next? The tonsils and adenoids get irritated and swell. The throat gets dry and scratchy too. The lungs get irritated. They cannot breathe as well, so they don't sleep as well. That means the immune system takes a hit. This child is now more vulnerable to the next virus that comes around. And the airways and lungs are irritated and more vulnerable to that next infection too. This cycle repeats night after night. As soon as their worn-down immune system clears one infection, they catch another. But no one can give a good diagnosis because the underlying issue isn't asthma or allergies or anything. It's that they can't breathe at night, so they can't sleep. So many kids today are not getting enough sleep. Neither enough hours of sleep nor good quality, healthy, restful sleep that their growing brains and bodies need for optimum growth and development. Healthy, restful sleep gives their body a chance to rest and recuperate from the day. A day filled with learning, growth, and activities. But it doesn't mean that they're not doing anything. We burn about 82% of the calories burned in an hour watching TV in an hour of sleep. How can that be when we're not doing anything? Well, not only do our baseline metabolic activities continue, but our brains are actually hard at work, especially the brains that are growing. At this point, you're probably thinking I'm a sleep doctor. Well, I'm not. I'm a dentist and a mother. When we look at this from a developmental and functional perspective, it is important to understand that the roof of the mouth is also the floor of the nose. When the growth and development of the upper jaw or the position of the tongue is affected or isn't ideal, it impacts the form and function of the upper airway. What does the bite look like? Do they have a high arched palate? Is there a tongue tie? Are the tonsils enlarged? Is this child a mouth breather? What does oral resting posture look like for this kid? Ideal resting posture is lips together, breathing through the nose, and the tongue resting passively in the roof of the mouth. Connecting the dots allows for the right combination of interventions to get breathing right and support nasal breathing instead of mouth breathing. Directing proper growth of the jaws means that the child finally gets a good night of sleep. In these kids, during sleep, when the muscles relax, the tongue can fall backwards into the airway, creating an obstruction. Presence of large tonsils can further compound this problem. This creates an impediment to smooth and uninterrupted airflow, which affects how much oxygen is actually being delivered to their brains, especially while sleeping. This now causes the brain to go into fight or flight mode. The brain does whatever it can to make sure these kids are breathing and that it is getting the oxygen it needs. I believe that a simple, non-invasive screening and assessment in the dental office can help identify and address each and every one of these issues while helping kids get the quality of sleep their growing bodies and brains need. This can be identified as early as infancy, leading all the way up to adulthood. When we can identify and address a baby that has trouble breastfeeding, latching on, a toddler who is a picky eater, a kid with speech issues, learning difficulties, or trouble focusing, a simple evaluation can help connect the dots and point at what needs to be addressed. When the dentist can assess the shape of the arch, the position of the jaws, tongue placement, and even whether the child is a mouth breather, it can give clues as to what needs to happen next for this child to have the greatest impact on growth and development. There is no such thing as a bad kid. What there is a child that is tired and sleep deprived. If we don't address the underlying sleep issues, we'll end up with a long list of interventions that you tried and that didn't work very well or completely failed. Sleep is the foundation of everything else our kids do in a day. Treatment for sleep-disordered breathing can turn lives around because an open airway changes lives, and an open airway saves lives. Sleep-disordered breathing is a public health crisis, and it's a treatable and preventable crisis. There is no shame in asking for help. Do not stop until you have the answer, because there is always an answer. Imagine you are that 12-year-old being invited to a sleepover, worried you're going to have an accident because you cannot make it to the bathroom on time. Imagine having to wear a diaper and your friends finding out. Today, Jessie is a healthy, thriving young adult enjoying college. She hopes to become a doctor and help other kids just like her breathe better and sleep better. Our children are our future. They are our doctors, engineers, teachers, first responders, the citizens of our future world. When they are able to sleep better and breathe better, they have a better shot at reaching their full potential. They can grow and thrive and impact not only their worlds, but the worlds of those around them as well. Airway is life, and together, we can save the lives of children everywhere.